Oh, good morning. Well, let me just open up the blinds here and we can get started. I know I'm starting to get a little craft heavy in some of these episodes, but one of the things I'm about to craft doesn't show up in the crafting recipes on the right there. So first we're going to make a compressor. Pretty standard industrial craft tool. I thought that would open a lot faster. But I've already made one of these, and I'm using it because if you've played with this mod at all, you realize that some of the recipes have changed, and you can't craft metal blocks in a regular crafting table. You have to use a compressor. And as you'll see in just a moment, this will make us a nice solid block of diamond. And I can't see out that as well as I thought. You can see the sunrise out there. And one of the things I've used this for that doesn't show up in the recipe lists is a craft packet. And this kind of seems like an unnecessary step to me, but you can take this craft packet and then make a craft packet stamper, put the packet in, and that will turn into some diamond shards, which are what I've been using to make these wrath igniters, which are lots of fun. I also needed to compress some blocks to make some things for Mistcraft, specifically the link modifier. There it is. And I'll show you the recipe over here. It's pretty expensive, but it's worth it. And to explain exactly what this does, some of the quick and dirty basics of Mistcraft here are you can take any book and craft it into a linking book. And as long as you're in a different dimension, this will warp you back to the point where you were standing when you made it. You can also combine a book and a feather to make a descriptive book. But I'm going to show a few of the other recipes before I get into that. You're going to need a writing desk. These are all very simple recipes. And you're also going to need a notebook, which is just a bunch of paper. And here's a writing desk I've got sort of disguised here with a notebook inside of it that already has some runes in. And you can take a descriptive book and add, there's a page of biomes, you can add these descriptors to the book, or you can just travel straight to this book and it will fill in random ones. And I might do that a little later in the video. But back to the link modifier for now. You can take books, which you normally drop when you try to use them, and there are different attributes you can add to them here. The most useful, as I've demonstrated on this book, are following, so it always comes with you, and interlinking, so it can be used in whatever it can be used from its target dimension instead of only from a separate one. So for example with this one, I can carry with me whenever and wherever and come back to my office anytime. And it also sometimes turns you into Steve, apparently. Something else I used the compressor for was to compress some iron so that I could use a wrath igniter on it and turn it into dark iron to make these upgrades for barrels. For those who don't know, barrels are some pretty handy storage devices. They can hold up to a stack, up to 64 stacks of any one item. Here I've got a few set up in preparation for our tree farms, and I should be able to just hold shift and right click on these, and it should add, that will upgrade them, so now they hold more than 64 stacks. I'm not exactly sure how much more, but it's a lot. And I'll eventually have some pipes running down here to pump all of these items into these barrels. But just in case I've made a mistake or something doesn't work right, I'm going to put a chest at the end here for overflow. And I'm using one of these crystal chests because you can easily see if there are items inside of them from a distance. Another project I wanted the compressor for was for this CF sprayer. I've got some construction foam, but it has to be compressed into pellets to be used in the sprayer. And I've been doing some work upstairs. I added the closest I could find to fluorescent factory lighting. I put in some luminators. I'll look them up here. They're basically electric lights. They run off Industrial Craft EU. A few ways to make them. I apparently double-clicked on this somehow. And it's my understanding you can use the CF sprayer to sort of pipe foam into the plenum where the wires are running there and make it flush with the rest of the ceiling. So I'll take a few of these pellets and load them up into the sprayer. Maybe take one more just to be safe. And what this should effectively let us do is run wiring through solid blocks, as long as we don't mind those solid blocks looking like stone slabs. So give this a try, and that worked much better than I had expected it to. I didn't think it would follow the line like that. And it won't look like white sponge forever. It will eventually dry, and I'm already out. But it should start drying eventually, and oh, there you can see it already started to. And I'll be back when more has dried. Now that most of it is dry, it's my understanding that you can paint this. I've got a painter here, just dyed white with bone meal. And look at that, I can paint it any color I want to. And this painter, it isn't actually taking damage, it's just using up the paint on it. You can wash it off anytime you want, add a new color of paint. And look at that, it's just like stone wool. Which kind of makes that rock wool a little pointless. Next on my to-do list is to replace some of this golden conductive pipe, because we can upgrade now. I've got two new pieces of machinery set down here. I'll turn the power on first so I can show you how they work. We've got a magma crucible and a liquid transposer, and this can either unload liquids from containers or load liquid into containers. We want to fill containers, and this crucible can melt things like cobblestone or netherrack down into lava, but today we're going to fill it with redstone to make some molten redstone. It's going to need a minute to build up some charge, but we're going to use that molten redstone to fill these energy conduits. Here, it's finally starting to go. And once those are filled, they can be used in place of conductive piping, and there are a few benefits to them. One of the problems with this conductive piping is it doesn't know how to handle loops. As you can see here, the energy is just going to start flowing in a loop, and it'll keep on going around and around until eventually there's so much in there that one of the pipes explodes, and we don't want that. So these are much smarter. They have no such problem with that. And they also communicate with some of the equipment they're connected to. For example, as this crucible starts to fill up with its internal storage, these will communicate back to the engine supplying them and tell it to conserve fuel by outputting less MJ a tick. So very handy when you're walking into walls. So let's go ahead and fill a few of these up, and then we can take those around back and replace our old obsolete conductive pipe. And it looks like we are one short. And what perfect timing. So we can get this out of here and throw these in, but they won't work right away because you need to set the direction they allow energy to flow with a wrench. If you can see the icon at the ends there. And I think each one holds its own small internal charge, so once we turn the power back on here, I don't think it will immediately start powering our machinery. Yeah, because it does charge it. Well, alright. At any rate, next we're going to head upstairs while we wait for these to fill and get back to work on those tree farms. Alright, so it's time to get rid of these chests because manually retrieving our wood is no good. We're going to dig down to make a channel for pipes to send that wood straight down to our coke ovens. As exciting as digging tunnels is, I thought I'd at least show you the basics of it. Some people might not have dealt with this much at all. And now we fly back upstairs and we're going to run a pipe from our logger, at least I think it was called a logger, and send this all the way down to the coke oven so that we'll have automatic charcoal production. Hands-free. And there you go. All the wood from that logger will now go into the coke oven. I don't actually want all of it to go in, but that will be something to deal with later. And just to give a basic demonstration, I'll fuel this up and get it running and come back when it's got some wood. Well, as you can see here, wood is starting to be sent down to our coke oven by the logger. But we also have a lot of saplings up here, and it is picking these up, but they're not being sent out of the pipes because the pipes are side specific for the logger. So the side will only send out wood, but not saplings. And we have an arboretum here that needs saplings to run. So an obvious solution presents itself. And apparently that solution was the neighbors using a concrete mixer. So sorry for the cut, but the logger only emits saplings from the top and I think the bottom. And I was too slow on those, but if I throw them back on the ground, it should pick them back up. Yep, and send them right up through the pipes and into our arboretum. So we've got a nice cycle there. So rather than bore you to death, I'll go do the same at the other 3 farms and rejoin you then. We now have all 4 farms feeding wood down, each into their respective coke ovens. But as I mentioned before, I don't want all of the wood coming down to go into the coke ovens. I want to have some wood left over. So I've got this extra line here going that leads down to those barrels I showed earlier. And I'm just going to branch the piping at the entrance to each of these coke ovens. There are probably far more efficient ways of doing this, but since I don't feel like looking them up, this will do for now. What this will do is some of the wood will go into the coke oven and some will go down into storage, because there's a chance of going either way. But also when the coke oven is full, any extra wood will automatically go down and into storage. And here we're going to do a similar setup with the saplings coming from the logger, because we have a second use for those as well besides just restocking the arboretums. And I'm going to go ahead and do that on all 4 of these farms as well. Alright, we now have all 4 farms set up so that there are 2 possible destinations for the saplings. And the next step is to create that second destination. So I'll go ahead and make 4 of these automated crafting tables, auto crafting table rather. I said the wrong word for a lot of things, I realize. And what these do is you place the items for a recipe you want to make into them, and you can now leave the table interface and those items will stay there, and as the source materials are piped into the table, the end product can be piped out of the other side. So I'm going to use that to craft those saplings. I don't know how long I moused over it, but to create, I think, plant balls. Sorry, I'm a terrible multitasker. And those plant balls, well, first, I've also got a diamond pipe set up here. Whoops. Well, that's gone forever. This is set up so that I can send saplings down the yellow pipe and apples from the oak farm down the blue pipe. So that yellow pipe will send the saplings down to the auto crafting table and then send plant balls to something I haven't placed yet. And the blue pipe will send apples around here to what we made in an earlier episode, which is this squeezer. And that's not exactly where I want that to be. But what the squeezer will do is it will squeeze apples and make apple juice, which I don't have a particular use for yet. But one of the side effects of that is it will create mulch. And just as a demonstration, let me grab an engine here. Alright, I apologize for the cut here, and I don't want to edit out all of my mistakes, because I don't want to create the illusion I'm trying to be perfect, but I don't think anyone wanted to watch me derp around like a complete moron for 8 minutes trying to fine-tune all of this. But here's the finished product. The yellow pipe sends saplings down to the crafting table. The blue pipe sends apples to the squeezer. Let's see, one of these pipes takes extra sand out of the arboretum and sends it down into storage. And if we come over here, the squeezer receives apples, squeezes them, creates mulch. The mulch is pumped out of the side and into this carpenter, which has some sand in it that does not belong there. In fact, I don't know why I didn't take that out. The plant balls come down this pipe, go into this macerator, which, I'll just show you the recipe, macerates the plant balls into dirt. The dirt is pumped out of the macerator, goes into the carpenter. The dirt and mulch are combined to create humus. And unless I've made yet another mistake, which is entirely likely, this humus should pump out, get randomly divided between these pipes. I imagine there's probably a way to make this more reliable, but I don't know what it is. Please, some go to the right, or I may have made yet another horrible mistake. But this humus, at any rate, should be pumping out, going down these pipes and feeding back into the arboretums. There goes one. Branches off here, and into the arboretum it goes, so the process can begin anew. Now, just to demonstrate, Here comes some wood from one of our farms. There's some in the oven here, but you can see that piece decided to go down into storage. And these ovens are so slow, I'm not concerned about keeping them full. So if we head down into storage, we should see if this headed down into the barrels properly. Here's some more of the piping leading down, by the way. And we can see here, no, that it did not go into the barrel. So I'll have to figure out what I've done wrong. Alright, so now we need somewhere for all of the charcoal in these coke ovens to go. So I'm going to use the same system I've been using for wood and for saplings, and set it up so that some of the charcoal goes into the blast furnace, and some of it, that graphic does not quite look right. But anyway, some will go into the blast furnace, and some will branch off and go down into storage, which, again, the blast furnace it works so slow, it will probably always be full anyway. Also, some of this construction foam is supposed to dry at a high enough light level, but it's been a little stubborn, so I've got some torches set up there. As for the barrels, it should have been obvious. The reason they're not working is the same principle I've been using to split off my drops, because at each of these intersections the items won't go up. Barrels can only fill from the top, but at each of these intersections, like say a piece of coal comes down, it can either go into the coal barrel or it can continue on. So half of it's just been going on for no reason. But I have a solution for that I'll do in a later video, but not today. Well, I've since discovered that you can instantly dry construction foam just by clicking on it with some sand. So that's some more egg on my face, except this one doesn't seem to be working. Alright. Whatever. Anyway, I've got all of my pipes set up back here, all kinds of space-age tubes running every which way. But the last thing I'm going to build here is the reason for all of this setup, and also the reason why I switched to steam engines wherever I could. It's because I'm going to start using some steam power. So I've got an accumulator set up here, aqueous accumulator. Now we're going to build a boiler on top of it, and just need to put the boiler tanks on top. And I went with a liquid fueled boiler. You can see it's already starting to fill up with water. And for fuel, we've got quite a bit of creosote oil built up. So this will create steam to power those steam generators and the hobbyist steam engines. But then we can also use this to make some industrial craft energy by making this steam turbine. Now this won't run yet because I still need to put a rotor in it, and I don't have enough steel at the moment to craft one. But as you'll see in the next episode, that's not going to be a problem for long. And I know the last couple episodes have been pretty buildy, but things will get a little more interesting starting next time, I promise. And goodbye for now. Psio.